All right. Welcome back to my friends, enemies, families, and foes. Actually, that's the wrong channel. You're on the shift today. Austin's not here. He's been busy with some of his own endeavors in life, and I've also been busy with my own endeavors, which is why you've not been getting many videos. But we're back today with a very special musician. In spirit of Austin, we needed a musician on here, to talk about his music and why he does the job he does, which is a pretty interesting job, if I might add, and to get to know a little bit about Near Far. You can see him right there on the screen. That's my guy.
Hello.
Um, but yeah, again, thanks everybody for tuning back into the shift. More content will be coming soon. But enough about me. Let's hear it from Bradley, also known as Near Far. Tell us about yourself. Go
Hey,
on.
that was quite the introduction. um, my name is Bradley, and I go by Near Far. I compose and produce music, kind of little accumulation of everything that I've learned while producing audio and various instruments while growing up. And so I like to do the producer and composer thing as well as engineering and some mixing for other artists. Make my own little style of electronic music. I'm sure every electronic artist likes to say that though. I feel like that's a very
Mhm.
common thing to be like how different it is, but I enjoy maybe a different take from the regular. Try to experiment a lot. I just love writing music and just make channeling a whole mood. It's great.
Yeah. So, when did you first get into music? When did it first touch your soul where you were like, this is something that I want to spend time and effort participating in?
My first real introduction to music was in school. I think we
Mm,
all grew up, at least around where I grew up, we all grew up playing like the recorder. And it was your first
yeah.
kind of introduction to the music. I don't know about you. Well,
Yeah.
probably likewise.
Yeah, I started off I always enjoyed music, but I do remember vividly the recorder. But
Hot cross buns.
yeah, I started really getting into music when I heard Slipknot for the first time when I was in second grade, and I was just
Oh,
like,
right
there's
on.
something about these guys that like I just felt, so
I would say what growing up, it was a various like radio and just different channels, a lot of different genres that my family listened to. I don't think anyone was too particular with the artists they loved to listen to growing up. But I kind of found I would say the 80s and that synth era, I really fell in love with synth pop. And that's really kind of what sparked my
mm.
interest. And at that same time, had just started playing the viola in middle school
Oh, nice.
and kind of was getting into music from like the classical sense and found that I really enjoyed classical music. And at that
Okay.
same time, I kind of discovered in that same age the synth pop, and I really fell in love with the sounds of the synthesizer.
I
And
love the synthesizer, man. Oh my
one of my
God.
favorite instruments. And honestly, full circle, I kind of got into production with more of the techno and trance days, like the techno and um, yeah, just trance. I guess they're early stuff. And I got into production, and over the years, I've kind of done a little bit of different genres in the electronic world. There's been some hip hop, and
Mm.
I've really kind of gone full circle back to the synthesizer and orchestral, all into like one, making like a soundtrack EDM type thing. That's what I like to think I make.
So, man, that was an amazing response. I feel like I have so many questions, but I'll start with maybe to get a bigger idea of your sound before we get into like what you actually make. You said you listened to some new wave people in the 80s when you were younger and some like older composers. So, who were some of those people that you listened to that existed in the 80s and also the people that existed hundreds of years ago?
Would say various 80s synth rock was really influential for me, that kind of sound.
You like The Cure?
I do like The Cure, and I remember a really odd fondness for Devo, as
Oh,
weird as
Devo's
that may
good.
be. The
Devo's
maybe
good.
just the way they did the melodies and the bass, I just really enjoyed a lot of their songs. That was probably one of the biggest ones. And there's one in particular from the 90s that was I'm Blue from Eiffel. Was it 30? Oh my goodness, I forgot the rest of the name. The specific number. I'm Blue.
Dabba dee dabba die.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is the song. And that was, I want to say that ended up on some late night radio station, that was a bunch of 80s synth jams and remixes with like some the techno stuff that was coming out in the 90s, and that really is what kind of sparked the whole thing. I really enjoyed listening to like Chopin, and Vivaldi is one of my other
yeah.
particulars that I like a lot. Of Four Seasons is a really good piece. I'm sure that's like a popular one. um, Kind of doing the I realized playing in an orchestra kind of really made me appreciate, and learning to read sheet music kind of really made me appreciate all of that. And as I've grown through school, I did different various, I guess, music classes. And
Mm.
I think you may have taken similar ones at university where they're like introduction to music or music
No, I haven't.
appreciation, maybe always electives. I always did those, and those were always really interesting, going through the different eras and kind of learning a little bit about how that all kind of got started.
Yeah. I remember I got into I really started liking music around that time I listened to Slipknot in second grade, and then I went into like a big phase of EDM, and that kind of fell off, and I started liking rap. But in between that time, when I was really into EDM, I wanted to do like dubstep and percussion and whatnot. And so I remember I joined a band and I learned how to play the drums. I was able to read sheet music, but in order to progress on like better drums, we had to also learn how to do the xylophone. And I
Mm,
remember I just I wasn't able to do it. It was just so complex. And
that's
I
how I felt with
realized,
drums.
hmm,
That's how I felt with drums, just the regular, can same thing.
yeah, I'm not the best with rhythm, which is why I think I struggle with the xylophone.
It's
But
tough.
but I definitely have seen like how detailed music can be, um, and how layered music should be. Because, when you listen to certain artists who put like a lot of effort into their music, it's like you're getting a whole experience that's like curated to the listener. And I feel like that's how it should feel when you're listening to music, is like this is something that nobody else has made, and like you can relate to this on a level that you can't with other things. So
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask, how do you feel about where music is today on a society? We'll start with like in America, and then we can go like on a broader scale, but the state of music today.
State of music today. I would like to think that it's at a really, right now in this moment, I think it's at a really great place. There's never been a time where so many niche genres and things could exist. And even, artists you've never heard of probably could make a living off of it just from having a few thousand fans or something like that. Um, it's there's something about the self-expression. It's so much more accessible now, and I think that is really what pushes creativity forward. I don't know if you've heard of uh, like the concept of where no idea is truly new. It just is kind of like a reconfiguration of what we've already know. And
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that's music in a nutshell, in a way where there's only so much music theory, and I'm no expert at music theory. I have music theory knowledge, but I'm learning new things every day. Um, and like you said, it's so deep and layered that writing a melody is just as layered as being a percussionist. And so there's so many aspects that builds music. But I think now we're in a time where it seems to be a lot about the money. There's also some cons to that. Things change so fast. I think it's always kind of been hard to make money as a musician or as an artist. I think that's kind of been like the trend forever. But right now, I feel like it's in a good place, with the exception of it not also being a good place where with the kind of that at least American side of things, artists aren't really seeing probably as much royalties as they should or could, especially particularly with streaming. And I feel that there is a lot of everything's just kind of dominated by what you can market.
Mm.
So there is that aspect, but that's also the beautiful thing is that if you're able to market a sound or I guess a style or whatever the experience, the feeling that you're able to create and give to people, I think that's at the end of the day the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And man, especially modern computers and technology, it's never been this accessible.
So would you mind elaborating on that through talking about like the work you do, the job that you have as a composer?
Oh yeah. So right now I work in audio as like my day job. I do an audio visual career so I can stay relevant. I love the technology and being hands on in like live production. And for composing, I really enjoy writing music. Typically, it's working. I've been starting to work with some indie game companies, independent developers,
Mm.
and smaller dev teams. One of the first ones I did, I think, was with like a student group, or writing music to try to fit the mood of what the art and the kind of gameplay is.
So what was that like? Like you making music for a video game? Do you see the game first and they show you it and you're like, okay, this is what you need, or do they give you like a script with like different scenes and you test it out, you give them the script and they're like, no, I don't want, or you give them the piece and they're like, no, add this, add that. What's the process for that like making music for somebody else?
That so this, I feel like that can vary from person to person and from whatever team you're working with. I know one company was more so like, hey, this is what we need, this style, this sound, it's for this. I didn't really see anything other than some screenshots of like splash art, essentially, like cover art for like what would be, what you would see as like a thumbnail for the game. And I had written something for that. And in other cases, it's even like doing a game jam or a hobbyist thing, or just creating from team from scratch. You're talking with the coders, you're talking with the artists, you're seeing the art come together, what it looks like, and then you're able to go and write with that because I think there is something very important about making sure it's paced with the games. So it can kind of vary from like gig to gig or team to team you're working with because it often could be just like a contract here, this is what we want, here's a scene, score this, or it could be something like here we just want something that sounds like this. There's a
Do you struggle more, if you struggle at all, with releasing music for other people or when you're releasing it for yourself?
I would say the perfectionist in me, the one I'm trying very hard to crack, is it's much more difficult to release a song as like an artist myself, just from that perfectionist level of wanting to like be the best version of it. And you're very much kind of on a self-set deadline, whereas when you're doing a track for someone else, it's you're typically on a deadline. There's maybe a little bit more objectivity to it that goes into it when it's not just your, oh, it's my baby, I think there is an aspect of that. So it's a lot, I feel it's a lot easier to write music with other people and to help bring that vision like together than it is sometimes to just self-express. And because then you can always keep creating, I'm sure you've heard like the painter, the artist, that you can keep adding and taking away and changing things for years even, and it may not even be done. At some point, you have to learn to call it done.
I want to transition now to how music has, I think, impacted people's lives. Um, I feel like when I go throughout my day, I constantly have a song that I want to hear because I feel like it like conflates with my emotion, like it goes along with it. Um, but I also feel that music has been there for me whenever I've needed it, whenever I felt low, whenever I've been having a bad day. there's something like historic and genetic with music because it's been around for so long. I mean, cultures have adopted music through different instruments and whatnot. Do you think music is still as appreciated today as it may have been? Or do you think, the abundance of music we have has kind of led it down a path where we celebrate, you know, really terrible music? Or is there such a thing as terrible music?
That's a
Or is it
very
up
good
to the
question.
listener?
It's such a, I feel personally feel that's such a subjective thing. You can't ever really, I mean, yes, you can, yeah, I feel that the more I get into writing music and the older I've gotten, I found an appreciation for things that I didn't used to like. I know you mentioned, you listen to Slipknot and then now you've been more into rap and you've kind of had phases and moods. I think that's really common with all of us, actually. And I think there is an aspect of where we've lost some of, like especially with commercial music, we all kind of going after whatever's catchy or the pop song or the top 50 and what's big. But I think you're absolutely right. There is something mysterious about music that kind of transcends us as a society or culture that, I was thinking about it, right? It's all just kind of, it's vibrations in the air and just frequencies that really have no context. And even when you arrange them into it's not until you arrange them into a pattern and kind of then hear it and what it makes you feel that we really truly align and appreciate with music. Like you said, when you're feeling down or you're feeling really high, there's always this moments where music is able to kind of transcend words and other things to where we're able to actually feel it. And it's like a universal language in a way, right? And I think that's kind of been timeless. There's a lot of corporate, I think, commercial watering down now. I don't know how you feel about that. And I think that's a lot of like kind of the issue with trying to make art or music a career.
Yeah, I feel like when you have, if you're making music, I don't know. I make music sometimes. I have like a little drum pad website I go on and I do what I feel. And I think that's why I like it is because it's what I feel. I don't know. I feel like if an artist is working with a company, for example, and the company's like, we need this out by this time, obviously there can be like a rush, a push to be creative. But at the same time, it's also like this is something that needs the time and energy that it needs to be something like coherent. But I feel like we've been having an influx of music that's just like throw something together and these big companies will market it like it's good and they'll market it like it's popular. They'll put it into the algorithm on a viral website. And no matter how bad it is, no matter how terrible it is, people will like it because it's said that this is good.
Yeah.
And
I think it's an aspect, like you were saying earlier. 100% agree with that. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna let you take it.
Oh, no, really. I kind of agree. There is definitely that issue with, what you can just market. Like you said, you can have absolute trash music hit the charts and do super well. But is it as well written as something else or maybe appreciated? I like that they always like to reference jazz. No matter how popular jazz has gotten or not gotten, there's always this refined jazz attitude, especially with how like music theory dense it is, that you don't see often unless it's like jazz artists or jazz musicians.
Hmm.
No, you're so right though. I don't know how we would fix that though. How do you tell people what to like? And at that point, are they just? I guess it's a question of are they just liking it because they're told it's good and told it's liking it, or do they genuinely find something catchy about it? Because that's pop music in a nutshell. Sometimes, I mean, even I don't know about you, I find myself like, oh, guilty pleasure, like this song jams.
A few. Um, there's a few tunes that I can see myself liking a lot. Um, Harry Styles is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. He's a good artist. Um, but I think that's a very interesting philosophical question because we can tie that into like anything. You know, like do people like the things they like because like a movie, is it or a TV show, like do people accept what's given to them or do they, reject it? Do they question it? Do they say like why has this artist has such a big, like in like a influx on streaming but maybe not vinyl, and maybe that artist isn't like, you know authentically making music like that, but when it comes to streaming that is promoted so heavily.
I can see that. I definitely think that there's an aspect of where whatever is really, because whatever is marketed and whatever's in your face is what you're going to see, what you're going to think about, right? And I think that's always kind of been the question is how free thinking we actually really are, even us, even folks who like to think they're self-aware. I think there's always that question of, well, why do I like the things I like? um I mean, I know streaming that's really hard to avoid. How do you avoid that though? Would be the question I ask. Is how do you avoid? Because nowadays it's, I don't know how you consume music. I feel like a lot of people maybe either stumble onto their music or they just go on to the top 50 charts. Some people seek out. Oh, nice. Okay, so you like your vinyl.
I love my vinyl,
Vinyl does sound great. There's an aspect of that that's beautiful.
but I'm careful with it, and I need a better record player. And vinyl's intense because it's heavy, like you're grabbing the music.
Well,
Um,
think about how we just hit you have vinyl, you're holding vinyl, we got a vinyl resurgence.
yeah,
Vinyl was long dead for a while, and now it's, you mentioned it when streaming's in your face and heavily marketed, but vinyl's popping again. I
it
don't
is.
personally own any. I want to, because they sound. I need to. I'm the snob. I'm frugal.
I feel you, man. I got it from my mom. I'm a little frugal too, but I'm trying to invest in my health a little bit more and pay for like things that I feel like will improve my well-being. Like this massage roller.
There you go. That's gotta be nifty.
It's handheld and you just
Manual. Yeah, there's got to be something to be said about being able to put your vinyl on without touching a phone or a computer device, right? Massage it out. You're feeling stressed, you put the
yeah.
vinyl on, you get
I would
the
say
massage.
I would honestly say my appreciation for music has become so much deeper. Um I'm the biggest fanboy of Trent Reznor. Um I remember when I was like scrounging the Nine Inch Nails website, he was like with streaming and what we have now. Um Vinyl is the best way to experience music and it always has been. At least for the past, like other than live music, like if your personal way of consuming music, it should be through a vinyl record. Um, and he says like you put it with you listen with your headphones and you turn your phone off and turn the lights off if you have to, and you just listen or look at the lyrics or look at the cover. And ever since I started listening to Nine Inch Nails, I'm like feel like I'm spoiled because I'll look at his albums and I'm like, this is like a movie. Like this is like if Tarantino just made music or Scorsese was like, I'm just gonna make music. Like I look at it now as
Yeah.
something deeper than just like a hit single. Obviously, there are still hits, but when I listen to like certain albums, I'm like, okay, this is something that is made to be listened to in a way that's different than when I hear like what's on the radio. You know?
I think that's pretty common with, maybe not common, but no, I totally get that because I know that's where I come from when I write music. I like to think of it as like an experience. And I know many other artists and creative people do like to think of, even looking at a Picasso, it's not just looking at a painting, it's looking at a mood and a feeling and an experience, right? Just looking at a painting, like you said, there's it goes so many layers. There's so it's so deep. You know there's an aspect of, right, you're not touching technology. I love that you get on a vinyl, you just be able to listen to music. The setting is everything, now, especially nowadays, everything's background music. Like you mentioned, everything's marketed, it's company, they need a song. There's music playing outside, there's music on a intercom, there's music on PAs, there's
There's
music
a
on your
lot.
phone, there's music coming from the car radio. Every video you have has typically background music, whether it's stock music or custom made or doesn't matter, it's there. And I think that is, with how much is available, there is, like you said, there's a big difference between having it playing in a setting or while you're doing something or looking at something else versus like critically listening or just listening to experience. I feel like you digest the music differently. I'm sure, I don't know if you would, this random fact that I feel like maybe contributes to that is that our ears are designed to hear sounds quieter. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you put on headphones and you don't turn it all the way up, you turn it, keep it at a medium low volume, you're able to hear way more detail. Even in your car stereo, if you turn the sound down, you actually hear more detail in the song than if you just crank it.
I've noticed that.
It's something with the way our ears are designed and how they respond to frequencies. Essentially, the louder they are, the less dense our frequency we can like tell apart. And so
Hmm.
I've seen it where someone turns down a radio and like, oh, I never actually heard that bit of the song, or I couldn't make it out. Kind of just starts blending together at some levels. So I
That's
think,
actually what I talked to my brother about. Because we'll do something called like car concerts, or we'll put on a whole album, and I'll be like, "Can you turn it down?" Because I feel like I'll be able to hear more of it. And I've noticed that too. And I'm listening to certain songs, I'm like, "This I can hear more in the song when it's played at a lower volume."
oh yeah, I know when that's like the whole mixing and mastering. You're gonna mix those songs at a low volume, but just something, yeah, it's just the way our hearing works is we're able to really just hear more detail at lower volumes. Maybe it's evolution and it's why we have that. Maybe I think there's one of the theories that kind of came from like making sure we can always be hearing things and footsteps, and that's why we're good at hearing things like that and little differences versus like everything loud just sounds loud.
Like think of a cat, you know, like or a dog. Like we don't they don't hear super hearing, like it's not supposed to be super hearing. They don't have super hearing. They are supposed to have intention and focus when listening to things, which is why they'll hear a certain sound from so far away and it's like, what was that?
Yeah,
You know, they don't blast it on full volume because it's not supposed to be like that. And that's actually a good point that you made. I think I'm going to lower the volume on my music a little bit when I'm listening to it and see what I can find.
those lame guides, you buy a new pair of headphones and you're like, oh boy. And then you open up, you always got one of those dinky manuals and everything that you buy nowadays. And it's, oh, please turn your volume down after so many minutes of listening. I mean, there's reasons they do that. God, I feel like a lot of people walk around with tinnitus.
I've
And
been actually getting that warning and I've been ignoring it.
ooh,
Maybe I'm not gonna lie, when I'm at the gym, dude, they play the country music and the shitty pop music so loud that if I don't play my music on full volume, I'm gonna be hearing that intercom music louder than my own jams.
ooh, that sounds like you might need to get a new gym.
I might.
Oh man, I don't know how you avoid that one.
I don't know, but I got my AirPods, you know,
Oh, nice.
convenient. Have you
How do
used these
you?
before?
I have a little skull candy AirPod versions. They're like a little cheaper knockoff. They're
Are they
they're not
good?
the true iPhones. They're pretty decent for them being a quarter of the price. Yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
pretty solid little earbuds. And I'm not a big fan of earbuds, as you can tell. I like my headphones.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting some Apple headphones, but they're like $500. I don't know
Oh,
if those are even worth it though. Like if you know a good A good pair. I'll check. I'll take them. I have these. My girlfriend got these for me. My amazing girlfriend got these headphones.
Oh, are they comfortable?
Yeah, they're like the PlayStation gaming headphones, but
Nice.
they come with an aux cord, so I mostly use them to listen to music.
I like that. There's always I have a pair that I can do the same thing with that are like HyperX Cloud something gaming brand or another. Oh,
Do you
there's
wear
plenty. I mean, look, think of how Bose is. Look, you talk about marketing and you like the things that you like. Look at market. Bose is super expensive, and yes, they are good, but you're also paying, a lot more for the price tag, and you can probably get the same thing for less, essentially, realistically, without the marketing.
Do you wear earplugs when you go to concerts?
I need to. I have had some and I lost them. And so the last two concerts I've been to, yeah, I have not worn any. And I've made a note of it to kind of, all right, I'm very conscious of my, I guess, tolerance or like how ear fatigue really is what it's called.
Your ears get tired, man.
It,
Like when they're
may
ringing
surprise
like that,
people.
they're like begging you. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
please take care of me.
It may surprise some people to hear that, yeah.
And
And I think that's the other thing is, but even before you've gotten to that ringing, you've already had ear fatigue long before you get to that point. You would have already had it, but the ear fatigue is really tricky because you just you kind of stop hearing that a particular frequency or range as well. So you listen to a bass all night. Eventually, you start your ears kind of start filtering that out, and your ears get
that's been
tired.
happening at the EDM concerts I go to, man. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them I'm
It'll
just like,
happen.
I'm like, I can't take this anymore.
It was like, let me get an SBL meter over here.
Yeah.
It's just it's loud. I always personally like to take breaks, whether it's walk outside the venue or I just kind of fade back to a spot that is less loud. Uh,
Depends who I'm watching though. Depends who I'm seeing.
yeah. Well, and like you
Cause
said, there's always those little windows. It's okay to go crank it up and have it super loud, but it's over the time and how long you're just listening to that. I'm more conscious of it than other people. I don't know how you are about it.
I
It's
think I am conscious of it, but sometimes I'm just like, I want to blast it. I just
oh yeah,
some
me too.
music, some Nine Inch Nails, because that's mostly what I listen to. Because the catalog is so diverse, they have everything, like jazz to orchestra to rock to metal to techno.
Oh yeah.
Um, Sometimes I'm just like, I want the energy from the song to like filter through my veins, and I'll just
Sometimes you gotta
blast it.
feel it, right? You
Exactly.
gotta feel the
Like
the
when I'm
rumble of the bass.
like when I'm in the car, like I can notice when I'm feeling the music physically. I'm like, this is flowing through my body. And I
Yeah.
love that. But I want to talk a little bit about, now that we're nearing the end of the podcast, I want to transition it from music to something a little bit more sociological. Um, challenge the mind a little bit. I want to go back to the ears yelling at people when they leave a concert, right?
Yeah.
And we neglect that. We neglect that our ears are like, hey, this is something that is temporary. This is your hearing. And I am not happy with what I'm feeling, but we just like avoid it. And I think as a society, we're now seeing a trend where like we are ignoring a lot of aspects of our health because it's not fun, it's not we can't jest around. So do you think now not related to music anymore, do you think we're seeing a kind of promotion to our culture that it's good, in fact, to not be healthy? Because I feel like that's what I'm seeing. Everywhere you look, cheeseburgers, double crust pizza, pepperoni stuffed crust pizza, pepperoni and sausage stuffed crust double cheese pizza. Like obviously we get ads for healthy things, but no matter what, if you go to a poor neighborhood or you're in a rich city, you're gonna see the same disgusting fast food places that taste delicious, but like they're horrible for you. And I've personally seen a lot of people who acknowledge that like I physically am not healthy. I'm physically, not good. I like these foods that I know aren't good for me. And to each their own, they're not hurting anybody. But, you know, where do you think that might be coming from, and why do you think, or what do you feel about that? What do you feel about what I said?
That's so deep and like so many layers there to there's that because there yeah, you're totally right with there's an aspect of, well, why are they continuing, right? Is it blissful ignorance? Is it neglect on their part? Is it socioeconomic situation? Eating these healthy, organic, vegan, whole grain foods are not cheap, honestly. I mean, no matter what anyone tells you, is it's not as cheap. The joke of, this is what's wrong with your cheap pasteurized eggs and why it's not as good for you. And I like a good egg, and an organic egg is, it tastes better, it cooks better, it makes me feel better. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, I'll take the cheaper ones, and everything goes up. The same milk. Uh, there's I feel like there's a lot of layers to there. Sometimes it's situations you can't help. There's that aspect of it's because you're right, there's cheeseburgers everywhere, and I think that was the culture we were raised on, was this. And more recently there's been like a push, and a bigger push, maybe with social media and things, with like healthy lifestyles, but then that just feels almost like corporate companies selling, like, we made a problem and here's your cure. So because even then you can push some of these, like, think of all the diet plans that have been marketed and pushed that aren't healthy for you. And necessarily, like, everyone's a different weight, but it doesn't feel good to put good food in ourselves. And I don't know if it's so multifaceted, because even if I can do my best to get these products, like, if no one's making or offering this type of food accessible, how am I supposed to get it?
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest issue. I saw Burger King offers an Impossible Burger now. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I've had it.
How is it?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Um, there are some places that actually sell really good Impossible Burgers, like that taste like the real meat. But
It
even that is it's so expensive.
How does it make you feel though? So let me ask, because that's the idea. I think you want to eat healthy and you want to eat things that aren't bad for you. And that's the biggest difference, I think, is if that's all you don't know what it makes you feel like. You stop having McDonald's for a month, then you go eat McDonald's, you might realize, oh, it kind of hurts your stomach or something, right? So like, how do you feel there's a big difference when you eat one of, like, an Impossible Burger, for instance, versus like a regular burger?
Sometimes, um, sometimes I'll eat Impossible fried chicken from like Morningstar, and sometimes I'm like, this tastes like artificial paper. Like it tastes
Hmm.
disgusting. And it says like it's plant-based, but I'm like, I feel like it's healthier to have real chicken because I don't know what this is. But there are certain companies that make an amazing veggie burger, and it's not even like a meat. It's like a patty with like it's made out of like crushed up peas and
Oh,
stuff. It's
I
stuffed
love
with like,
black bean burgers.
yeah, that like those.
Those are so good.
The impossible thing is more like interesting to me because I don't know. It's like it's yeah, I don't know what it is.
Well, can I interject, because I want to ask you a question then, because you kind of proposed that question, is where eating like organic or veggie burger versus like a lab company grown meat, if that makes sense. Like, I guess it's, what do you trust, right? It's always, how does it, I don't even know how to fully round that into a question that wasn't really a question, but that was an interesting, you kind of got stuck on that for a moment, where it was like, how am I supposed it's supposed to be safer, but how am I supposed to trust that it's actually safer?
And that's an interesting thing is I want to ask you, like every day you wake up, we allow the government to be in our lives in so many different ways. Like
Absolutely.
we are allowing them to give us AC. We don't know what the water is, but we're trusting them that the water is clean. We don't know who we're trusting, but we're trusting that the water we're drinking is clean. We're trusting that whoever sells the Zephyr Hills to us has not done damage to it and stuffed it with zinc, you know?
Yeah.
We're trusting like this is okay. So like where do you, like where do I make that agreement with them? And what are the conditions where we're like, we can't trust you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because like, you know, the
That's a tricky one.
like we don't know if the air they're putting in or the air we're breathing in is like dirty when we go outside, but we're trusting that it's clean. We're trusting that like there are things that go into our roads and our cars. Like we're trusting that when we buy a car, the mechanic will do his job because he's paid and our car's not going to break down. You know,
True.
but like,
Ask someone who had a shady mechanic how they feel now and trust about trusting mechanics.
yeah. So I don't know. What do you think?
My response to that, something I've been learning, I think, is more trust your gut and trust yourself and what you feel. Whether that's like, oh, you see a doctors practice medicine, you feel what they're practicing on you. The same applies to our daily lives. If you're told that this is okay and safe to eat, but if you feel different or that you don't like it, or at least if you're able to pay attention to that, and I think that's the biggest thing is actually like mindfulness about yourself, that a lot of us, I'm guilty of that as well. We kind of just sometimes ignore it and go on this it wouldn't, maybe not autopilot, but we agree to all those things and trusting those things in like a unconscious part of our brain. We we just kind of blindly accept it, whether that's because of conditioning and we grew up like this is how it goes. Because time and time again, I always hear, you find out stories that are in fact confirmable. I guess I don't, nothing in specific, but look at Flint or the other things that are happening. You know, there are many sources where we know things have happened or their water wasn't safe or this air wasn't okay and they didn't say anything, or it was kind of defensive about it, or they just lied about the whole thing, later told the truth. It's tough to say how we really are supposed to just trust that. But I guess that's why, you always have someone like a whistleblower. There's always that urge in us when we don't know something or we feel something, and we got to go with it. Hopefully, that I like to think that we would all kind of be able to share and agree and share those ideas. And I find that now more than ever, we're having, especially in America, we're having difficulties really sharing ideas and different viewpoints. And it's always a lot of blaming and labeling, right? Even music, you get so caught up in what the label is, you don't want to listen to it. And I think that's even within yourself. You can't just label your emotions and things that from what you're told or what you watch on TikTok. You got to actually feel it and pay attention to how does it really make you feel. It wasn't until I decided, I'm going to stop drinking soda. They tell me it's not good for you. I don't think I ever really felt what soda made me feel until 7, 8 months down the road. I had my first, glass of soda, and whoa, I realized the caffeine and sugar rush and whatever the artificialness. After going so long without it, I didn't want it anymore. My body just really told me no soda. And it's really apparent to do that, see that when you haven't had something. So then, like you said, you go and eat fast food because it's accessible and you don't know it's making you feel bad. You just feel like this because that's how you feel in your environment. It's hard to want to change sometimes if you don't know.
Yeah. Thank you for that response, man. That was
That's
deep.
long-winded.
That was very deep, but I think it provided a lot of valuable insights. I want to ask one last question before we head out. Uh, I want to ask something positive to
Okay.
change this conversation a little bit. Um, what would you tell your 10-year-old self if you could go back in time?
Ooh, ooh, that's a tough one. Just do the thing. I like to, I'm a man of simplicity. I like to think it's keep it simple. Just do the thing. Not even the thing. Whatever the thing is, just take any opportunity. If you fail, you fail. It's a learning lesson, and really just don't be. I think that's something that a lot of when I was 10, I was missing that, and I feel like a lot of other kids miss that. It's just like just do the thing. Don't worry about this or that or the future. Just in the moment, if you want to do the thing, do the thing. I don't know. You know, if you want to learn a new hobby, go learn a new hobby. Man. How about you? What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Take risks.
I think that's what I was going kind of feel with the do the thing, right? Takes just do it, take a
Don't
risk. You don't,
don't care if people don't like it.
yeah. Or if you fail, you keep taking another risk. That's all. That's no, absolutely. That's a good one.
Bradley, let's tell everybody where they can find your music. I'm obviously gonna link your stuff in the description, but social medias, the whole spiel. Give it up. Let's find you.
All right. You can find me at Near Far Official, which is most of my handles, like Instagram. Otherwise, near slash far. You can search into the terms. That's near and slash far.
Cool
And
fucking name.
thank you. I like the duality
Near far.
vibe to it there. You just say it near far. You don't say that pronounce the slash, but that's okay if you would like to pronounce near slash far. That's fine as well. So most social medias, Facebook, Instagram, on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, uh, you name it. You can probably find my music there.
Do you have a link tree?
I do. I have not Linktree, but I have a card dot. That's what I have. They spell it with two R's.
Okay.
It's the same sort of thing. Then it's be near far. Honestly, just go to my website, nearfarmusic.com. No
All
slash.
right. All right.
Fun.
Everybody, you heard it here. Bradley, you've been an amazing guest to have on. Thank you for blessing us with your knowledge, wisdom, and your presence. I
Thank you for
appreciated
having
the
me.
conversation, and I'm very excited to hear the music you make in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. We got a little esoteric with it. Apologies, but it was good. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I'll see you very soon.
See you
Take care,
soon, man. We'll
everyone.
talk soon. Take care.